During Brian Kelly's press conference following Notre Dame's first spring practice on March 27th, Drew Pyne, Notre Dame sophomore quarterback, was discussed a good bit by the Irish leader. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the rising sophomore quarterback. Before we dive into today's video, please hit the thumbs up on this video. It really helps support our channel. Like, subscribe to our channel if you're not already. Head to blueandgold.com for more coverage. We really appreciate you guys. So let's start with, who is Drew Pyne? 6 foot, 181 pounds. That's who's listed at as a high school prospect, the number 118 overall player in the country, number 7 pro-style quarterback, and the number 1 player in Connecticut. Invited to the Rivals 5-Star Challenge twice. Under Armour All-American, committed to Notre Dame before his junior season, had offers from the likes of Nick Saban in Alabama, Jimbo Fisher when he was the Florida State head coach. So a highly coveted recruit early in his high school career. I believe it was before even he was in high school that he landed his first offer. Coveted prospect, 4-star guy, commits to Notre Dame early. Interestingly enough, a lot of people want to talk about Notre Dame needs to get the high-ranked quarterback, and people say that Pyne wasn't that, and Tyler Buchner was. Well, according to Rivals, Pyne, number 118 overall player in the country in the 2020 class, and then in 2021, Tyler Buchner was the number 114 player. And Pyne even peaked as high as the top 40 in the country, but slid down in the rankings as time went on. For the most part, in the 2020 season, Pyne was the number 3 quarterback at Notre Dame behind Ian Book and Brendan Clark. Pyne completed a pass against USF in garbage time for 5 yards, and Brendan Clark was not available for the Alabama college football semifinal game back in January 1st of this year, and completed a pass for 7 yards while Ian Book came out. Can he challenge Jack Coan for the starting job this upcoming season? It's certainly possible, and something Brian Kelly talked about, and we'll get to that in a minute. Brendan Clark is out this spring, so it's Pyne, it's Jack Coan, the Wisconsin graduate transfer, it's Tyler Buchner, and Ron Paulus, the latter two being early enrollee true freshmen. Let's go ahead and look at some practice clips that Notre Dame released from the first practice. This one, a bomb. Drew Pyne in a one-on-one period, completing a bomb to Lawrence Keys with KJ Wallace in coverage. Absolute strike here. A little wobbly there, but Lawrence Keys certainly is not going to be complaining about the ball that Drew Pyne threw there. Nice ball here to, and it was an unidentified receiver when we recorded our initial practice video, but actually a YouTube comment left on our video said that it was Matt Salerno, who was mainly a punt returner for Notre Dame last season. Nice catch there over Clarence Lewis. And again, this is Notre Dame's first spring practice on March 27th. Last clip here, Drew Pyne surveying the field, offense on air to Joe Wilkins Jr., a big target who looked good against Duke last season, and hoping that he has a breakout season in 2021. A pass thrown again by Drew Pyne. I wanted to come back to this throw by Drew Pyne to Lawrence Keys down the left sideline. You see here, this throw here, it's very much something that we could see in a game. He's not putting his entire body into the throw. Whereas this clip, this is from before his senior season. He throws an absolute rope here, about from 50 yards out. But he's throwing with his entire body. You see how far his right leg kicks up there. So the point of showing this is just how much strength that Drew Pyne has added in the past couple of years. And look, he's not the tallest guy. We're going to discuss that in a minute here with Lou Somogyi. But what he does on the football field is impressive, and he's improved that arm strength. Let's hear now from Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly and what he had to say about Pyne after Saturday's practice.
What do we want from Drew Pyne? We want Drew to be the starter. We're not handing this job to Jack Coan. So Drew's been in the program. So we want him in the spring. To be competing for this starting position, and they'll have an opportunity to do that where they get first team reps. Drew's built for this, right? I mean, he's always been told that he's not good enough, or can't be the starter or can't win, or and he relishes these opportunities, and he's always succeeded. So this doesn't affect Drew at all. It just motivates him even more.
So we just heard from Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly what he had to say about Drew Pyne following that March 27th practice. So we'll bring in Lou Somogyi, senior editor at bloomandgold.com here. So, Drew Pyne, seemingly the number 2 quarterback going into his sophomore season. We'll kind of see what happens with Brendan Clark and Tyler Buckner. But, Brian Kelly seemed to indicate that, hey, this job is not just being handed over to Jack Coan.
And that's what he should say as the Notre Dame head coach, that there's no sense of entitlement just because you're coming in as a graduate transfer with 18 career starts, started a full season for a Rose Bowl team at Wisconsin, that we're just going to hand you the ball. That's the thing that you should say behind closed doors and in public. I don't think when they were recruiting Drew Pyne, or whether it's Brendan Clark or anyone else, that they go into the room and say, hey, we're going to be extending this $280,000 scholarship or whatever for 4 years here so that you can just, dally around and sit on the bench. They want you to compete. They want you to become a legitimate threat to be a starting quarterback. And that's the right approach to take. It's the natural approach to take, not just at the quarterback position, but anywhere else.
Probably the biggest concern with Drew Pyne amongst Notre Dame fans is his height. He is 5'11 and a half, listed by Notre Dame. So, Lou, to you, how much of a concern is that? I mean, Ian Book wasn't much taller. Maybe Drew Pyne's able to grow another inch or so. So what's kind of your thoughts about the height concerns there for Drew Pyne?
That's always going to be something that crops up, especially when you have to throw over guys like potentially Tosh Baker is 6'8". Josh Lugg might be on the inside. He's about 6'7", and almost everyone is virtually at least 6'5". And that was one of the things with Ian Book, too, as far as, well, is he able to see over all these trees up front, and as opposed to like a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guy, which is, where Jack Coan is in that range. But Ian Book also had that luxury of just incredible elusiveness skills, which was, I think, really underrated throughout his career. He ran for over 1,500 yards at Notre Dame, and most of them weren't really by design. So, that's going to be something that is going to have to be evaluated as far, the coaching staff. Is it going to be a potential liability? That's something that they can answer far better than I could at any point. But with all this said, with Drew Pyne, I mean, I would still be surprised if Jack Coan is not the starting quarterback, all things being equal with health and everything, for that opener at Florida State.
That's going to do it for this video. Appreciate you guys sticking around to the end and watching our content here. Again, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more content, and make sure you go to blueandgold.com for all of your coverage of Notre Dame athletics.